Hi, everybody. Louise Eddington, Cosmic Owl Astrology, with the week ahead forecast for the week beginning November the 6th, no, 23rd. Sorry, I don't know what day we're on. 23rd through the 29th. And I'm recording this on November the 19th, just before this Scorpio new moon, and I did a whole video on the Scorpio new moon, and we also talked about it a lot on the videos Kathy and I do, but also talked about it with Dabney. And as predicted, things starting to change, and bit of reversals really with this Mercury Cazimi, this new moon. But Kathy and I politically will look at that when we meet next, which is actually tomorrow on the 20th, because she's away on the 21st. So this new moon is kind of bringing stuff to the forefront, I'm going to say. So I just want to talk about some international news as well as the politics here. Unfortunately, there were 2 blocks of flats destroyed by cruise missiles in Ukraine, killing 25 people and children amongst them. And, unfortunately, things like this as part of this big shift are going to happen. But we also had Larry Summers resigning from the OpenAI board after Epstein emails made public. There's a Russian spy ship pointing lasers at RAF pilots, which is dangerous as well. 2 Miss Universe judges quit the scandal hit pageant, as one claims it's rigged, and there's various other things. There was a large urban fire in Japan that ripped through 170 buildings, but reportedly only 1 person killed so far. So there's all of that. So, I just wanted to kind of say that, I report all those things to say that flaws in the structures and corruption and all kinds of things like that are coming to light. And I just see that in the US, the Department of Justice admits that not all grand jury members saw final version of the James Comey indictment, which is it looks like that case might be dismissed as well. But I say all this to say that things are turning around. But before we dive into the week ahead, and I want to tell you as well about a book I'm listening to, and I've invited the author on my podcast, so fingers crossed. By the way, do you like my jumper? I'm in my punk rock phase. This is kind of a bit Dennis the Menace. If you're British, you'll remember Dennis the Menace, but it's also a bit Captain Sensible from The Damned, who I first saw at the end of 1977. So anyway, it's kind of got all this grungy stuff here. But anyway, let's dive in. My membership portal, the Spiral Codex, my newly redesigned membership portal, which is a space of both learning more astrology, learning through practicing with charts, as well as access to my 101 course, which is going to be done over time more and more, and I'm going to add more things to that. It's also a place of mentorship. I have people in my Spiral Codex who just want to learn more about their own astrology, but also use a little bit of the astrology for whatever they are doing in the world. They may not be looking to just be astrologers, because we are moving into this very new, strange new paradigm. We have no idea of what's coming. So I just want to reiterate that I have an offer on my membership, because I'm also doing my first 10K on November the 27th. Which is Thanksgiving here in the USA. I am doing a sponsored 10K for the Utah Food Bank. And if you just want to sponsor me, I would love you to. I've already raised quite a lot, and I'm really pleased with it, because people are struggling right now. But anyway, I am offering those that would like to join my membership, if they sponsor me for at least $50, they will get, and then email me, louise@louiseeddington.com, with the receipt. They will get codes for 25% off the membership, which is more than $50. Whether you join for 6 months minimum or for a year, better deal on the year. So all the details will be below. I was closing the registration for my membership on the 15th, but I had a couple of people go, oh, I wanted to join. So then I was going to close it this Friday when the sun goes into Sagittarius, my birthday month. But then, I thought, let's just do it right up to the eve of the sponsorship, because really my aim is to encourage people to make it a win-win situation for everybody. So all the details will be below. The registration for the membership will close at the end of November the 26th. It will reopen again in a few months next year, about 6 months. I haven't looked at the dates yet, because I want to create a very supportive container of members. And one other thing there was, as part of it, you get big discounts off one-on-one sessions. You also get big discounts off any classes and courses. And my next Venus retrograde class will start at the end of September next year. So if you join for a year, you will be a member when I offer the big discount for the class. So all the numbers are below. What a time we're in. So before I dive into the week, I also want to say I'm listening to Yuga Shift by Bibu, what's his name again? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh my goodness. Let me have a look. Bibu Dev Misra. He has been on Heather Ensworth's channel on YouTube a couple of times. I've actually emailed him and asked if he would come on mine. It's called Yuga Shift, and he talks about the shifting of the ages from the yugas, the Hindu yugas perspective. But what I'm loving about his book is that he has researched kind of all the like the Hopi and the Sioux stories of the shifting of the ages, also what the Hesiod in the Greek philosophy were telling us about, and they all have similar themes. And the astrology as well is showing us that we are in this major turning of the ages. I've talked about how Rosie Finn, with her book Persephone's Revolution, has researched Pluto going out of bounds. Her Pluto going out of bounds time period coincides almost exactly with what Bibu Dev Misra's book is saying. And it's a good thing, but there will be some collapse and catastrophes along the way. So anyway, I just want to tell you about it in case you want to read the book, or watch out for, if he comes on my podcast, you could also go and watch him on Heather Ensworth's channel. So his book is excellent, researched so brilliantly, and his website and his articles are just really interesting and astounding as well. So I'm very excited that I finally found the time to listen to his book. So let's look at the week ahead. So let me get, and as usual, I will be pulling cards for this week ahead as well. I'm actually going to pull them as I talk because I have not pulled them yet. I felt called to wait for this one, but it's a big week again. But here's where we start the week on Sunday, November the 23rd. We start the week, Jupiter is retrograde and has moved back to the 24th degree from 2509. We start the week with Saturn 1 minute away from stationing direct. So Saturn stations direct this week. Things are really going to start shifting. The tides are going to be turning. And Mercury as well is going to station direct this week. So 2 planets stationing direct. And as we start the week, the sun has moved into Sagittarius. Woohoo! My birthday months. And the moon has moved more than 30 degrees away from the sun. So there's 30 degrees in a sign. So this is 32 degrees almost exactly. So the moon is starting to gain light and move into the action phase of the lunar cycle. So really things are going to start changing. I always said this Scorpio new moon was going to ignite something really deep, but there's more to come. As we know, it's all a big kind of process. So here we are on the 23rd, and I'll just talk about what the moon does first of all. So here we have the moon is in Capricorn. The moon will actually make a aspect of opportunity to Haumea, which is the planet of regeneration and birth and creation in Scorpio, which is a very fertile sign. And then the moon will conjunct Vesta and Pholus. So Vesta is an asteroid, which is both the inner flame, but it's also the flame of the state and the hearth. So this applies to all the states, by the way, like USA. I know I'm quite USA centric because we're really going through some stuff, but this applies to kind of all kind of empire states. In the Roman pantheon, the Vestal Virgins kept the flame burning, and it was said that if the flame went out, then Rome would fall. And we see empire falling in so many ways. But then the moon will conjunct Pholus, which is kind of cause and effect, taking an inventory, both us taking our personal inventories and seeing an inventory of how we got here, if you like. And Vesta is on its way to conjunct Pholus. So more and more is going to come out. The moon, lastly, will aspect the nodes, which is not a major aspect, but it's just another shift in where we're headed towards, okay? But the bigger aspects of the day are, thanks to this Sagittarius sun, the Sagittarius sun will oppose Sedna, crisis in consciousness. We are really going through a big shift in consciousness in so many ways. And I've talked about this many times, that Sedna was last where she is now at the end of the Great Ice Ages, which Bibhu Dev Misra is talking about in the chapter in the book I'm listening to right now. It's just all kind of converging. But also the sun will make an aspect of opportunity to Pluto, who is digging in and excavating the corruption, the secrets, the lies. Pluto dives in and deals and really excavates. He is the great excavator. Pluto excavates anything that is sewers, dirty, all that kind of stuff. And we're seeing this happen all the time right now. Pluto is also the modern guide for Scorpio, where we have this Scorpio new moon right now. So Pluto, every time, I've mentioned it before, but every time an energy aspects these planets that have just changed signs, it's another step in this big shift we're in. Incidentally, I mentioned that Bibhu said that the time period for coming out of the Kali Yuga and starting a cycle again, raising our consciousness, is about now, 2025 till 2040, I think he said. Incidentally, Pluto stops going out of bounds in 2032. So all these things are just working together. I do want to reiterate that Pluto is back in bounds now. So, that's had its short period. So next week, Pluto's back in bounds till next year. But this period has been an intense period of Pluto really digging into all this corruption, secrets, lies, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so that we can change it. So anyway, November the 24th, the moon is still in, the moon, oh, I think I've moved a whole month. I'm like, that's not right. Bear with me, just need to make that change. November the 24th. Okay. We have the moon is still in Capricorn, so let me just talk about the moon's aspects first. The moon will make an aspect of opportunity to Centaur Nessus. So we've just had Centaur Pholus. These centaurs seem to be really working together to help us, to show us what needs to be healed. Now, Nessus is the revealer of abuses of power and trauma, patterns, and all kinds of things like that. It's also the revealer of toxins, because his whole mythological story is about toxicity and poisons and how it's damaged us. So here the moon, after kind of seeing more of the lid coming off, it aspects Nessus again, saying the buck stops here. We've had enough of all of this, right? Then the moon later will sextile Venus and will sextile Mercury. Again, that's an aspect of opportunity. But if you, I forgot to mention this at the start, but Mercury is still under the beams of the sun. So it's only 7, 8, 9 degrees away, about to come out of the beams of the sun and be visible again as evening star, Mercury evening star, which is more receptive, more flowy. And then Venus is about to go under the beams of the sun for a long time. She won't emerge until Pisces. So that's a whole other thing. But as the moon aspects these, this is adding to the secrets that are coming out under this energy that we're in now. And the moon's gaining light, which means more is being revealed. And you can see now that Mercury is activating that very strong water grand trine that we keep talking about, which is literally eroding and revealing. You think about what water does. It just kind of reveals what's been long hidden. And Uranus is bringing some of the kind of quite more liberating and shocking surprises. Okay, so Venus, if you could say, is about money and women and many other things, relationships. The Epstein emails, we don't have the files yet. The Epstein emails are revealing that this was not only about the women who were abused, of course it was huge about that, it's also about money laundering and greed and all kinds of things like that. And Mercury is the messenger and news and documents and things like that. So more is coming out. Then the moon will square off with Chiron and Eris, who are moving close together still. Chiron will get back to 22 Aries and then move forward and conjunct Eris again. This is asking us to shake things up, to shake tables, both within and without. And then the moon will oppose Jupiter, and at the same time will aspect Saturn, which is about station direct. So this is big changes, really starting at the cycle on the December the 21st solstice at the end of 2020. What began then at 0 Aquarius, where Pluto is now. Of course, some things go back further, but as these two are at speaking to each other is part of this water grand trine, things that began back then are being revealed. Okay. And okay, so that's all the moon aspects. Now the sun. The sun has moved to 2 degrees of Sagittarius, and the sun exactly makes a fire trine to Ceres in Aries. Now, Ceres in Aries, I've mentioned it again, but Ceres is about station direct, not this week, but coming up. Oh no, she is direct now. Sorry, she's station direct right after the new moon. So by Sunday morning, she has moved 1 minute. So that's another planetary shift that will move things forward. But Ceres station direct at the degree of the Venus star point from March the 22nd earlier this year. when the Sun and Venus met at 2 degrees Aries. All these energies are really activating certain degrees over and over again and working together to give us this opportunity to expand our consciousness and live more harmoniously on the earth. We have free will as to whether we're listening, but I think more and more people are. So anyway, the Sun makes a fire trine to Ceres, which is now direct. Ceres has not gained speed yet. She's still moving slow, but this is about burning certain things down and being like the phoenix and recreating. And I've talked about it many times. It's about, if it is to be, it's up to me. We are the only ones that can change ourselves and do our healing from the inside out. And then that ripples out. So then lastly, on November the 24th, Mercury and Venus will be exactly conjunct at 22 Scorpio. Remember I said that Chiron will station direct at 22 Aries, and 22 has been activated in many other ways as well. And 22 is the master builder number, and the twos are the divine feminine. So we are being given this opportunity to bring back in the divine feminine. An interesting phrase I just heard in Bibu Misra's book this morning, I'm probably going to listen to it more than once, is that one of the texts about these ages said that in the falling ages, because the Kali Yuga is the last one of the cycle of 4 yugas before we start ascending our consciousness again. One of the things he said is that women will be, degraded, made second class and all things like that. So there you go. But they are going to meet at 8:51 p.m. on the 24th. So by that time, in fact, I'm going to get this one exact for you. So you can see it is down here in Scorpio. Interestingly, in the DC chart where I set these charts for, this is in the 5th house, which is children. Just saying. But anyway, there they are. That's where they meet. But as you can see, Mercury is, so Sun's at 3 degrees now. Mercury has just moved more than 10 degrees away from the Sun, and Venus is moving towards the Sun because Venus is moving faster and is about to be 10 degrees from the Sun, which means Venus is going into her underworld to find more stuff. Okay, I'll do a whole thing on the Venus cycle because it's important right now. Everything is. We've never, this time is just impacting us on all levels. And I think, just, really kind of forgetting about the, all the details and things. I think the energies are giving us an opportunity to learn to live differently on this earth. Okay. His book really adds a lot to that as well. November the 25th, Tuesday. All righty. We'll look at the moon's aspects again. The moon starts the day at the end of Capricorn and will actually aspect both Neptune and Uranus, which on the new moon had their second of 3 exact aspects of opportunity, sextile 60 degrees at 2929, which is another master number, so of enlightenment. All these things keep pushing towards it. I've been promising you this was coming. But also, the moon aspects Uranus and Neptune at the last degree of Capricorn, which is where Pluto last stationed direct before leaving Capricorn for good and moving into the sign of the future. So many things keep speaking to each other. Then at 5:15 a.m., the moon enters the sign of Aquarius. The moon starts to really gain more light, and Aquarius is about hopes and wishes for the future, but it's also technology, all those kind of things. And the moon hits Pluto immediately because that's what everything does that enters Aquarius, but also the moon every month. And then the moon will sextile Ceres. And going back to other things, December the 7th, 2024, Ceres, Pluto, and Venus were all at 0 Aquarius. So I talked about that with Jupiter, Saturn. This is just astounding to me. We are moving into the new paradigm. But for you, with this moon in Aquarius and now the sun in fire sign, Sagittarius, I always think Aquarius and Sagittarius have a lot of similarities in their nature. They're both very future oriented. Sagittarius is more about belief, having faith, all that kind of stuff, and wondering and exploring, whereas Aquarius is about how we are going to create the future or what we want from the future. Okay, so but they are very inspiring together. Both can be inspiring signs. Okay, so so the moon sextiles Ceres, which has just stationed direct, fire and air, and then the moon will sextile the sun, fire and air. So really the moon will kind of be at the midpoint of this fire grand trine, saying it's time to start creating the future we really want to see in a bigger way. Okay, lastly, I think that's all the moon aspects. So I'm going to go through other aspects on November the 25th. Sedna, I'm going to mention her again. Sedna has this 11,406 year orbit, according to NASA. And she is now at the closest point to Earth in her very elliptical, very large orbit. And that means her influence is strong right now. She's literally at perigee on the 25th. So just mentioning that as well to add to all these things. Okay. Oh, I forgot to mention that the moon will also square off to Haumea, so more rebirth, all those kind of things. And then Jupiter over here will square off to Eris, the table turner. Tables are going to be turned, and they're both retrograde, so it's about things that are coming to light during retrogrades. Some more minor aspects are that Juno is our sacred contracts with each other. She's also supposed to represent women and children and the divine marriage in many ways, but also literal kind of marriages, whether it's legal marriages or of the heart. Juno is sextile to another centaur, Chariklo, who is the space holder for where we are going to help us to weave and write this new story. And so, same theme again, fire and air. Let's start weaving more of this new story. Now we even see more. So then Vesta over here, I've already mentioned that, will oppose Hygeia, which is our collective health in many ways in these things, but she's also our holistic health and preventative health, how we can move forward to stop this happening again in the world. It'll happen after four more yugas. So, anyway, so not in our lifetimes. So this is where we're at right now in our life. On to the 26th, the moon is still in Aquarius, and the moon will conjunct Pallas Athena, strategist, but also kind of like pattern seer. She is like going down the rabbit hole into Alice in Wonderland. She can connect dots of weird things. In Aquarius, that's also, kind of seeing things a little bit differently and seeing that possibilities are actually endless in this world we're in now. We are not limited to what we have believed. We are limited. Anyway, I'm going on a ADHD rant again. Venus over here now. Now Venus is 1 minute from 10 degrees away from the sun. So she is in the underworld, because by 11:31 a.m. I'm actually going to get this cycle. And, you know, she does go behind the sun every 19 months, but the Venus cycle has been proven to be significant in these collective shifts as well. So we'll also be learning about that in my membership, the Spiral Codex. So Venus will trine Jupiter at 11:31 a.m. Eastern time. And so Venus is over here. She is now less than 10 degrees from the sun. It does depend where you live and, you know, what you have on your eastern horizon as to whether she'll still be visible or whether she's been invisible for a while. But this is kind of energetically the official kind of moment she's going into the underworld. So November the 26th. But as she goes into the underworld, she makes a water trine to Jupiter and then a water trine to Saturn, who are part of this big, great water trine that we have been activated over and over again. The water trine will be activated more than one more time when Mercury stations direct and activates it. But after that, it starts to dissipate. So this is really a time of erosion and things coming to light. Now, Venus and Jupiter started their cycle back on August the 12th with a conjunction in Cancer, with the conjunction with fixed star Sirius, who I can add back in. And, you know, it's impossible to move the chart to look at all of these things, but I keep getting pings from this book. And one of the myths, I'm going to have to go back over them again, said something about when we shift out of the Kali Yuga and into the new age of expansion of consciousness and start literally in the ascending cycle again. He said that one of them said that a second sun comes in. Now then, of course, all these myths, whether they're from Greece or from India or from the Sioux or from the Hopi or wherever, the Mayans, all those things, we're trying to make sense of what happened in this big shift of the ages. And Sirius is called the son of our sun. So on August the 12th, Sirius, Jupiter and Venus, the two planets I associate most with manifestation, if worked with, were conjunct Sirius together at the degree pretty much where Jupiter will station direct later this year. Again, I can't go back and look at all of these things, but wow, I'm just like, can we stop? This is just too much almost. But anyway, you keep seeing how things are building, right? So now Venus aspects Jupiter. Jupiter's retrograde, kind of retreading old ground. Venus goes into her underworld from this degree in Scorpio and will not emerge until she reaches 8 Pisces. So that's a long time. So that's 6 degrees, 36, 66, 30, 96 and 8. Oh, I'll have to check that. 96. She's invisible for a long time. But anyway, I'll check on that because I need to do a video on the Venus cycle anyway. Okay, so we're on to November the 26th already. And so, did I talk about that one? Sorry. Yeah. Meanwhile, the moon will move on the 26th, and will start to make aspects of opportunities to all of this other energy in Sagittarius, which has moved through Scorpio, now into Sagittarius, shooting their arrows forward, wandering and wandering with an A and an O, exploring higher experiences of the divine, all kinds of things going on like that. And Hecate, the way shower, is aspected. We also have Mars and Black Moon Lilith doing a dance together. Black Moon Lilith is dancing back and forth now to say, come on, divine feminine is going to find its equal place in all its forms. And then will aspect Juno as well. All of those aspects in Sagittarius. The moon will aspect, so that's a magical thing too. But then as the moon aspects some of them, the moon will conjunct Chariclo. So, but then the bigger lunar aspect towards the end of the day, after Venus has exactly sextiled, unbroken flow. Let me get that one. Venus will exactly trine Saturn at 6:47 p.m. Eastern, well under the beams now. You can see this now, but Saturn is at its station point. This is also, I believe, bear with me, I've lost the window. I've got so much going on in my head. It's just amazing. And I just want you to know that we are really in the outs now of all of this. But things will still happen, unfortunately. But so Venus last stationed direct on April the 13th at 24 degrees of Pisces. And Saturn is stationing direct at 25 degrees of Pisces. But this Jupiter's already back to where Venus stationed direct back in April. Another trigger for this water grand trine, which has a string going to Uranus, really, a kite. So, this is just astounding. Last lunar aspect is that the moon over here in Aquarius will actually square off to Mercury. And that will happen at 21 degrees. So, this is ideas coming out, plans, more news, communications about all of this stuff that's being dug up. Okay. But it's also digging up empowerment. What we learn from all this can help us to really step up and be more empowered. Okay, on to November the 27th. So on November the 27th, let's go back to starting at the start of the day again. You can see the moon is still in Aquarius, and incidentally it's at 22 degrees, which is another degree that was hot. I can't remember why, but I remember it was. All during the pandemic, all during after that cycle of Saturn and Jupiter meeting at 0 Aquarius. Anyway, the moon will sextile Chiron right after that. So, but Chiron is heading back to that 22 degree mark. So, okay, crazy kind of things. And then the moon will also sextile Eris, the table turner. So Chiron is kind of like the magician, alchemist kind of thing, or medicine person, the shaman in many ways. And so, activating again, saying we can heal and create. Then the moon will square off to Venus. And then the moon will aspect something I forgot to add on here, which I love to use. And that's asteroid Lilith. You've heard me call her Talk to the Hand Lilith, the rebellious teenager. We've got Black Moon Lilith and asteroid Lilith, both very potent this week. and the moon will meet asteroid Lilith, saying, no, we're just not doing this anymore. And right after the moon conjuncts asteroid Lilith, the moon will square off to Uranus, which is the modern guide for the sign of Aquarius. Radical changes are coming from all of this. Radical changes. It's just... But anyway, then at 2:33 p.m., the moon leaves the sign of Aquarius and ducks into Pisces, the emotional sign of Pisces, for just over 2 days. All right, so first, the moon will square off to Sedna, which you remember is closest to Earth right now. And that's really the only lunar aspect pretty much on this day. No, it's going to do more after it goes into Pisces. Sorry, that's the only remaining major aspect after the moon has moved into Pisces, this square to Sedna. There are other aspects. It will also make a water trine to Haumea, but the other aspects are much more interesting on the 27th. I do want to mention Black Moon Lilith. She's with Mars, really moving back and forth because she's going to go retrograde and back again. But she is also at perigee, closest to Earth. I mentioned that Sedna is, right? But then on the 27th, later, the big news, Saturn stations direct to finish its journey through Pisces for almost 29-ish years. Okay, and Saturn is going to head back into Aries, where Neptune and Saturn will meet at 0 Aries, a world point, all of those things. Now, this is huge, again, because of not only because of the time we're in, but this water grand trine is huge. Saturn is stationing direct at 2509 Pisces, and Jupiter stationed retrograde at 2509 Cancer. You cannot make this up. So I want to look at the numbers first of all, because clearly it's a 25-degree thing that keeps being activated over and over again. So 25 really is a 2 plus 5 is a 7. So the number 2 is about bringing things together and finding balance and being more harmonious. It's kind of the divine feminine number. And 5 is about change and adaptability. We are going to have to change and adapt to all this stuff that's coming out in major ways. But the number 7, I love the number 7, relates to mysticism, intuition, research, and knowledge. And the 7 really is about kind of coming into bringing that right and left brain together in a lot of ways. The society that we've been living in has just degraded to really ignoring the divine feminine energy, or the energy of our divine direct experience of whatever the divine is, all those kind of things. But 7 is rest as well, contemplation, spirituality, sensitivity, sympathy, and mastery. So I'm going to say that this Saturn stationing direct is very much about expanding your connection with whatever the divine is for you, with in the imaginary realms, with all of that, not dismissing your knowing and your intuition. Saturn itself is also about mastery. But I do want to read you the symbols for this station direct. The Sabian symbol is, interestingly, a new moon that divides its influences. Okay, so that's like, whoa, okay. And so it's kind of looking like, emotionally we are not knowing which way to go. But let me read you. I think I'm actually going to go to James Burgess's degree, to his interpretation of the Sabian symbol. Dabney Lawless, my friend, lovely woman, has has had James Burgess on her podcast a couple of times and is doing a class with him. He's got some interesting things to say about Sufism, which is another form of direct experience with the divine. But his interpretation of this Sabian symbol, a new moon that divides its influences, could also be seen as that science brain, the rational and the irrational. But he said, civilization demands conformity, but the soul requires freedom to choose what comes next. And he said this is about freedom of choice and exercising your free will. He says if we expect to be able to exercise freedom of choice for ourselves, then we must allow the same freedom for others. Therefore, the idea that we may require another person to act, feel, or think the same way that we do is false. But he goes on to say that, but I think people are beginning to realize this, right, in so many ways. But I do also want to just look for the key word used by Dr. Mark Edmund Jones and Dane Rudhyar. He said this is about finessing this, realizing that everything is interconnected, everything. And he said, when positive, the degree is a thoroughgoing capitalization on life's transitions and an effective development of every emerging potentiality of self. All right. So I'm only going to leave you with the positive because you're choosing to do this right. So now then, the symbols from John Sandbach, Pisces 26. We always go up. A writer endlessly revising his work. It's like the cosmos is constantly revising this creation that we are a part of, right? But he says, John Sandbach says, the degree angel is Hebuhia, contacting departed souls and healing. This degree is always moving deeper into the attempt to express itself. It is attempting to overcome the barriers that stand in the way of connecting with other people, and so works with whatever it has as a vehicle of communication, trying now this and now that way of transmitting its ideas. If it can put aside frustration and any feelings of alienation as it approaches this task slowly and patiently, Saturn is time, patience, the results can open up new vistas of understanding. And the Chandra symbol for this degree, incidentally, by this date, sunspots will be starting to appear on the face of the sun. Currently, they are ejecting towards I3 Atlas, which is a whole nother thing. Anyway, so much happening. Anyway, the Chandra symbol is the Aurora Borealis, which is the northern lights. Okay, so the Borealis, there's Aurora Australis, which are in the south. He says this degree focuses on the overlighting spiritual forces at work in all situations. It sees everything in an expanded context as being imbued with overtones and shimmerings of the divine. This awareness is not easy to express, but the mere witnessing of it brings some of this energy into the world around them and helps others to loosen and lighten up and to soften the tightness of their focus. Just as the writer of the Omega symbol, through constant revision, is trying to allow more and more of their vision to shine through their words, the one who witnesses the northern lights needs to accept into their mundane existence the beautiful iridescence streaming into the spiritual world. Right. This is just, whew, what a time. Anyway, on to November the 28th. Oh, this is just so intense. Oh, and I actually missed. How did I miss that? It's there somewhere. We have the moon squaring the sun. So when the moon was, when was that? Sorry, I'll get that exact. We have a first quarter moon as well. I'll just quickly tell you when it is, but that means we're really into the gaining light phase and, and heading towards the next full moon. So another part of the transition. It's on November the 28th, actually, at 6 degrees. I didn't miss it at all. So now we're on November the 28th. First quarter moon, crisis in action. What actions are you taking to help us to move into this new paradigm? Even though we're kind of stepping into the unknown, we are in this kind of full card moment in the tarot, taking a big leap into the unknown. But we have to deal with what this is and the regular muggle world that we're in. There's a lot of like, oh, the economy could crash, this could crash, that could crash, this could happen, that could happen. There's a lot of kind of revelation, disaster kind of scenarios. We do not know how this is really going to shake out. All you can do is live in the day, seize the day, and do what you can to create the life that you want to see in the world. So on November the 28th as well, Venus Day, love it, love Venus Day. The incidentally, by the way, the first quarter moon is at 6 Sagittarius, 6 Pisces, and this is the same degree. Mercury stationed, retrograde out, and Mercury is about station direct now. Told you these degrees were speaking to each other. So after that, the moon will then sextile Black Moon, Lilith, Vesta, all these, will not. First, the moon will sextile Vesta, which we've looked at, the hearth. So, these stories keep building, and then Pholus, cause and effect, inventories, the lid's coming off everything about what's brought us to this point. Then the moon will conjunct the North Node, which is where we're headed to, this interconnectedness. Okay. So meanwhile, before I go on to the later in the day on the 28th, Mars and Black Moon Lilith will be exactly conjunct. Okay. So that is kind of like the divine masculine in many ways. Also, action, will, drive to create what we want to do. Mars, I mentioned planets and planetary bodies being closest to the Earth. Mars is actually as far away from the Earth as possible in its cycle right now. So the divine feminine is most powerful during this period. Okay. Now then, at the end of the day, the Pisces moon will square Black Moon Lilith, will square Mars. But there's one other aspect as well. Hecate, way shower, crossroads, is coming up to conjunct Juno, our sacred contracts asteroid. But she is going to square revealer of abuses of power, Centaur Nessus, in the you cannot make this up world. But that happens at 11:14 p.m. And as we move into the last day of this week, 29th, whoops, that's not going to be right. I'll just go keep the time the same. As we move into Saturday, the 29th, before nearly at the end of November, the moon, you can see, has just been conjunct Nessus, making those aspects, has squared Hecate, right? And has conjuncted Nessus. So this is all speaking to each other. Mutable signs, changing perspectives, changing beliefs, changing what you believe in, what you have faith in, all these kind of things. And then Mars here starts to pull away from Black Moon Lilith for now, at least. And Mars will conjunct Hecate and join in at 18 degrees to talk to Chariklo, space holder, spinner of grace, and all of this. So Mars comes in and speaks to these and says it's time for us all to really take action. But we're going to see action out there in the world as well. So Venus now is heading out of Scorpio. You can see this line's getting thinner, so the water grand trine is easing a little bit. I mentioned already that it will get stronger one last time when Mercury activates Jupiter and Saturn, because those two are then going to pull away as well, with Saturn moving forward and Jupiter moving backwards. So the kind of this erosion of this intense water grand trine that we've had for quite a long time, on and off, is going to ease, but not yet. But Venus over here, when she gets to 28 Scorpio, squares off to asteroid Lilith. Venus is out there behind the sun from our perspective, kind of taking in messages from the rest of our solar system, being beamed through the sun, our core, into our spirit. And this is about all the issues that are coming up in many ways. Then the moon will move up, will trine Jupiter and conjunct Saturn. So the water grand trine is intensified by the moon at the end of the week. And then Mercury stations direct. I know you're all going, oh, yippee. Well, it has been quite technological difficult. I will say it's been rather intense for those who suffer from anxiety. There's a lot of agitation on this new moon because it was opposing Uranus as well. There's a lot of fidgetiness. There's a lot of, I know things are, changing and it's uncomfortable. All this is uncomfortable, both in personal lives and out there in the world. Do your exercises to balance your nervous system as much as possible, okay? Or take your meds if you take anxiety meds. So 12:38 p.m. next Saturday, Mercury stations direct. And so that's another turnaround, things moving ahead. Saturn's now direct, Mercury's down direct. They won't start moving really until next week, the week after, until into December. But change is coming, big change. And lastly, over here, the moon in Pisces squares off to Mars. I think I mentioned that already. And Hecate, the triple moon goddess who moves between the upper world, the middle world, and the lower world, or head, heart, and root, is at the crossroads. She squares off to Nessus, revealers of abuse. The buck stops here. We've had enough. We're not doing this anymore. We are going to unify and expand our consciousness in so many ways. Okay, I said I'd pull the cards live this week because it just feels like a different week, right? So here we go. So I'm tuning in to the start of the week, first of all. Interesting. All right. And I'm going to pull one from the Witch Oracle deck again. Oh, this is, we are moving into such an interesting time. So the first card I pulled, Seven of Cups. Remember, I said that Saturn stationing direct is at 25 degrees, which is a 7. I talked about the 7 already as a number. So cups are emotions. We've got all that water energy, so it's a very emotional time, very emotional week, but emotions can be good as well as not. But this is visions and dreams, Seven of Cups. Here she is. Dreams are necessary to life, Anais Nin. And who looks outside dreams? Who looks inside awakes. So pay attention to your dreams, to your downloads, to what's coming through. She's resting. She's like going, don't pay too much attention to what's going on out there. It's your inner life that's important now. I've talked about this like so much. And here is the domain of illusion, lies, dreams, and awakening. So it can be positivity and negativity. For those of us She says, many of us think we don't lie. However, we manage to conceal our untruths to others and to ourselves on a daily basis. This may suit us as watering down reality helps us to inflate the fantasy of how we would really like to be known and seen. But this is as without, so within, right? Anyway, the realm of dreams holds much strangeness, but is our very own inner landscape that can help us to understand our unconscious self. This labyrinth is also a space where we can encounter energies that are scattered, confused, unrealistic, and delusional. We can get lost in such places, and it takes great courage, focus, guidance, and hard work to finally return back again. For you, this will have a personal message, but collectively, I think it's really many more people waking up to the fact that they've been deluded. They had not been seeing things clearly in all ways. Okay. Now then, middle of the week, we get Two of Cups. We've had that a couple of times lately. This is really about union within, closeness, and it's within and without. It's, people are coming back together, but most importantly, this is kind of like Juno in many ways, the divine feminine and the divine masculine coming back together within us in the yin and yang symbol. And then, boy, am I pleased to see this card last. I will show you. In most astrology decks, this is the Venus card, the Great Mother, number 2. And she, the Empress, but I kind of see her as Ceres, who is stationing direct at that Venus degree. Anyway, so this is I Am Mystery. I who am the beauty of the green earth and white moon among the stars and the mysteries of the waters, I call upon your soul to arise and come unto me, for I am the soul of nature that gives life to the universe. So she is the great goddess in all its forms, the Great Mother, the snake goddess, the goddess of the labyrinth, the bird goddess, the goddess of animals, the bee goddess, the goddess of the sacred knot, the poppy goddess. But Christine Downing, in her book, The Goddess, said, I am many, I am one. So the Earth Mother is well travelled in loss, grief, and pain, but also offers us joy and ecstasy. Do things that bring you joy. Do your self-care. And self-care is things that bring you joy. This is not about going to get a pedicure unless that brings you joy. Oh, there's the book. Sorry, too many things on my desk. I'll have a clear out. And we've had this card before, and this is where I'm at for this coming week. The Gardener of Hope. There's a shamanic practice, by the way, that I learned when I was doing my shamanic practitioner training. Most of you know I am a trained practitioner. I do not do one-on-one shamanic healings, but I do use it in my Venus class and things, and I will suggest things because I think everybody can be their own shaman. I do not believe that you need a village shaman to heal you, but that's my opinion. If you need support, that's great, that's okay. But 46, the Gardener of Hope. Jupiter is very much about hope, by the way, and we've got that lovely Venus Jupiter aspect. But let me finish with this. We might think of hope as a flower or plant, its tendrils pushing upward and ever outward. Oh, I was telling you about the shamanic practice. It's where we journey into the middle world and plant our garden of seeds that we want to create in the world. It's a really powerful journey. You can just do it yourself. You can just say, let me journey into the middle world. Pay attention to what your middle world looks like, how you go in. The middle world is kind of just like the alternate timeline or reality that's existing alongside us. Anyway, you go in and literally you plant a garden and then you visit it to see how it's growing. So be the gardener of hope, right? You can do that practice. Anyway, we might think of it as a flower or plant, its tendrils pushing ever upward and outward, despite the harsh conditions of winter and the ravages of storm. But actually, hope is more like the soil. It's the ground in which we grow. Without hope, we struggle to find meaning. It's next to impossible to get out of bed in the morning. If your hope has dried out or been stolen away by crisis or heartache, though hope may at times seem far away, its nature is dog-like in its loyalty. It will never abandon you, not truly. It may feel far away, but it is deeply connected to your soul at all times. A witch knows when she wanders into circumstances that feel hopeless. Her primary job is to ask for help. One friend, family member, therapist, other ally, prayer, contemplation, meditation, whatever works for you. So she only needs one being to sincerely listen to help her create a space of safety so that she can hear her own voice and release the weed-like fears holding her garden of hope hostage. If you are struggling to find meaning, seek an ally that will help you create a safe space so you can tell your story and hear your own voice with loyalty and compassion. Hope will return. Now is the time to tend that garden. Oh, and don't forget to check out that spiral codex, all of things like that. And yeah, I know I said I would. Well, first I said I was going to close registration on the 15th. Then people wanted to rejoin. And then I said the 22nd, but I forgot I had to change it in this new platform I'm in so that new registrations would be allowed. So I'm like, oh, what the heck? I really want to do this sponsored race. I really want to help people with the food banks. And so let's just keep it going till the night before Thanksgiving. And then I can be in gratitude for all of you that have either just sponsored my race. Well, it's not really a race, it's a 10K. But anyway, if you've sponsored my 10K, I will finish it and you will help a lot of people at the food banks. But if you want to also join the membership, a reminder that a $50 sponsorship will give you a bigger discount off the membership. So love you. Bye.